Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I've been feeling pretty awful this week. I don't know, I think I got a head cold or something, probably from one of my roommates. But since I didn't really have any opportunity to really do any painting or much building, I thought I would just give you kind of a tour of the studio. And by studio I mean, well, my basement. But yeah, it's not much, but it works. It works. So I'm just gonna go through things as I try not to cough horrifically into the camera. So let's start here. So this is my bookshelf of shame. Not really shame. It's more just kind of like the truth. But yeah. So it is all my codices and various things, crusade books, journals, a lot of really old stuff. So let's just go through it from the top. So this is the Horus Heresy campaign books. The one marred to my collection is book 4. We did not get it before it went out of print, and it was replaced with the soft cover. We did get the soft cover, which is fortunate, but fortunately we did not get the hard cover, which it drives me nuts every time I look at this wall. Call me perfectionist or a OCD a little bit, but this is the story of my life. And I think to get like an actual one, I've seen them online anywhere from like $300 on up, so instead of paying $300 for a hardcover book, I'm just gonna deal with the fact that I have a missing piece in my collection. Other than that, we have the relevant red books, and for those of you who don't play Warhammer Horus Heresy 30K, we like to call it affectionately here, and I think most people call it 30K. 30K is these are kind of like your general army books. So in 30K, because all your factions are pretty much the same, with the exception of a few minor ones. Like you're all playing Marines, you're just playing different varieties of Marines, and so as a result, you have a generic army book. Sorry. This bad boy. Then you have the Legions of Darkness, which is the Legion specific books, and this just kind of has like the generic Legion stuff for your Legion books specifically. Now this book is a little behind because it has been a little bit since Forge World has released another Red Book update, so this one does not include some of the newest members to that faction. So if you were interested in getting to Warhammer 30,000, I would highly suggest doing it, by the way. It is a phenomenal game, and I know... Let's look at you. So, I know what you're going to say. I play against enough Space Marines in Warhammer 40,000. I play against a lot of Space Marines in Warhammer 40,000. In fact, the vast majority of my games, and the vast majority of the factions I probably play, are Space Marines in Warhammer 40,000. Point fact, they are the easiest to build, they are the easiest to collect. There's about 5 million of them out there. They're constantly being updated. They're constantly having rules updates. New models are constantly being released for them. And there's about a bunch of different flavors of them. So I understand the mentality of looking at that and going, well, Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer 30,000. I mean, I don't want to play more Space Marines. I do enough of that. And then to worse it off, I'm not even, to add insult to injury, I'm not even playing against other factions. I'm playing against other Marines. I have a response to that. Now, hear me out. I'm not just trying to, get on my soapbox. I mean, maybe I'm getting my soapbox a little bit. Basically put, this is my experience with Warhammer 30,000, and you could have a completely different experience than I am. I fully admit, and I recognize that I am a different person than you, and our experiences, all that stuff, shapes dramatically how we formulate, our opinions, and all that stuff. I am not saying your opinion is invalidated in any sense of it. But I'm saying that from my experience of Warhammer 30,000 is that the thing that really got me kind of annoyed at the Warhammer 40,000 was the fact that I did see a lot of the same kind of stuff. I saw a lot of the same Marines all the time. My Marines really didn't change much, especially once we got into 8th edition and then 9th edition, where Marine armies are pretty static. Like, we know what works for us, we know what doesn't work for us, and for the most part, we play the same types of units. Very minimal exceptions to that rule. So, when I came into Warhammer 30,000, I wanted to make my army, my units, everything I did, different than everything I did in Warhammer 40,000. I wanted to make sure that I really expressed the different chapters within each legion. And yes, there are chapters within Legion, which is really, really cool. And if you ever get into those books and get into the black books, I tell you what, you should peruse those pages like no other, because there is so much information and so much lore that you don't really get access to in the red books, or even, in general, unless you're an avid reader of the Horus Heresy books. I regret to say that I have read a lot of them, and I'm still way behind where they are currently, and I recognize the series is coming to an end. I just have been really busy with life, but, not an excuse. I recognize they're extremely good books. I love them. I got hooked on them really, really hard, but I just haven't really had the time to really kind of go back and really develop them and kind of, read through all of it and kind of get it all in. I mean, I've read a lot of synopsises offline, and I know online. I know a lot of people who read them like they read through the series like once every couple of years, kind of thing. So, and I've had long conversations with them about the different stuff. So I'm not read up on it, but I'm knowledgeable enough that I could probably hold a minor conversation with someone about the information. But anyways, back to my soapbox. So what I was trying to say is that Marines are a faction that is, you can play different flavors. I mean, you can play Space Wolves, you can play White Scars, you can play Black Templars, you can play Ultramarines. I don't know. You can play all these different factions of Space Wolves. I mean, of Space Wolves, of Space Marines, Adeptus Astartes, and for the most part, they're relatively the same. There's minor exceptions, like for the Space Wolves, you don't get access to a lot of the typical stuff. So your army line isn't typically consisting of lots of gunline type troops. You're consisting more of heavy assault units. And I do include assault intercessors in a gunline type army because assault intercessors tend to fill that role, which is when the enemy closes on you. And let's face it, we're both moving towards the center. We're both going to try to grab those objectives. They will close in on you. They are acting as kind of a warding unit to kind of reinforce a particular part of your line, or drive off a particular hard enemy, or even, just keep an enemy boxed in where they can't even do anything to the rest of your army. That's what I'm kind of talking about. But again, I'm getting sidetracked. Warhammer 30,000 took those differences and they really kind of pushed on it. And what I mean by that is that you have your warrior, you have your generic Legion trait, much like every other faction in 40,000. And your generic Legion trait gives you access to all these really awesome things, right? Like, it gives you access to different flavors of your army. So, like, your generic trait, okay, I'll just put an example out here. Space Wolves. Space Wolves are like, Space Wolves are actually probably a terrible example just because they don't actually field things like most armies in 30k. Let's go with a generic one. Let's go with Word Bearers. Word Bearers, right? Word Bearers, they're your bread and butter, right? They're your... Most people know what Word Bearers are, and most people don't play them, I don't think. I could be wrong about that. Word Bearer players out there, don't come for me. Don't cast your rituals. I apologize. But my experience is that Word Bearers are not a widely played army. I actually think they're really cool. I think you can do a lot with their painting style, because there's just so many interesting things to get into, like those weird archaic runes, and go into these esoteric kind of values and all that stuff that you really can't do with other Marines, because they're kind of more modernistic, or they have more of a particular approach. But you can just take all these weird occultic kind of symbols and ideas from all these different cultures and religions and stuff, and then just literally just plop them into one army. That's what you get with Word Bearers, and I think that's really interesting from an aesthetic point of view. But Word Bearers are pretty generic in terms of everyone else. They have a few minor exceptions. I think they're harder to make runaway because they get an additional leadership buff, kind of like Ultramarines do in 40,000. But they get access to this really cool tree of things called Dark Channeling. And Dark Channeling is hey, what if every single squad of my army were possessed Chaos Space Marines, and I get to roll randomly at the beginning of the game to determine what powers they get? And not only that, but you can cast multiple instances of Dark Channeling, to try to better your odds. I think I might be wrong about that. They might have FAQ'd that, or I might be wrong about that. But I'm pretty sure you can cast multiple instances to try to better your odds. But so Word Bearers are really cool because you can bring just kind of basic tactical Marines, and in 30,000, since tactical Marines are far more superfluous, plentiful, not superfluous, plentiful. you can take like up to 20-man blob. You can be like, oh, let's roll to see what abilities they get, and it's like, oh, they get a 5-up and a vulnerable save. That squad is now really, really hard to shift off a table. Or I don't know, they get deep strike. So a 20-man blob just randomly deep striking in the middle of the table and just like, acting as a gunline. And in 30,000, they have this really special rule called Fury of the, what's it called? It's like Fury of the First. That's like a stratagem from 40k. I think it's called Fury of the Legion. That's what it is. Fury of the Legion, which allows you to fire an additional time. And what I mean by that is it doubles your shots, essentially. So, like, kind of like, think of like Guard, how, like, the Guard, they double their shots with their order. It's what Fury of the Legion is. I mean, you lose the ability to shoot the following turn. But for that one turn, which is kind of what I think you'd want to do with, like, an Alpha Strike, kind of like 20-man blob, you drop them on the table, and you just do, like, you just put out tons of bolter shots. And you hopefully take down a squad with them, because no matter how many Terminators you're fighting against, they will roll ones, and eventually those squads will go down. And it's the same kind of idea behind like, like that's just like a really interesting rule, and the fact that you can, like, you're not really tailoring your army around it, but it changes the way the game is played. Like, you can come in with a conception about how your game is going to be played, and it completely changes. And then you have, like, armies like Ultramarines, and Ultramarines are, like, I know what people are thinking, Ultramarines. Yes. I am an Ultramarine player. I understand the Ultramarine shaming very, very well. But let me tell you about Ultramarines, right? So Ultramarines have this special thing where they have these two special rules which are really, really cool, called interlocking fire and interlocking tactics. Right? So interlocking fire says that when a Ultramarine unit fires at a squad, they kind of mark them, so that when another Ultramarine squad fires at that squad, they get to reroll ones to wound. And that's really, really cool, because it essentially means that you can, as an army, try to build more of a gunlight type army, and also try to pour in multiple shots at singular targets, try to focus them down, and then move on from there. Because you're not declaring at the beginning of the turn, you're literally just shooting at them and getting that benefit. Similarly, they have an interlocking tactics thing, which works like that, but it allows them to, I believe, reroll charges or something, or it adds to their charge range. Point is that, like, if you charge with one unit, then it makes it much easier for another unit to charge at them. So, like, it's kind of like you can kind of play your tactics around that. Additionally, they have additional rule that says that if you kill their HQs, like all their HQs, then the entire army has to potentially, starts to fall apart, because Ultramarines are really focused on, their HQ characters, their command nodes, controlling them and giving them orders. And when those command nodes fall apart, it makes it really difficult for them to kind of like operate and function as a cohesive force. And that's really, really cool. That's really, really flavorful. And these are the kind of things that, like, exist in 30,000. Like, you can add additional rules like that. And on top of that, there's another really, really awesome thing that on top of that, so you're not even getting benefits and detriments. And I feel like they push it a little bit farther than Warhammer 40,000 does. But, like, let's talk about Rights of War. Rights of War are your formations. And I know what people are thinking about 7th edition formations. They kind of killed the edition. I recognize that. I feel it. I'm afraid that these new armies of renown are going to fall into that niche, and I really hope they don't. But let's just kind of save that for a later discussion. But yeah, I mean, like, the thing about them is I feel like Rights of Battle were formations done right. Now, what I mean by that is that formations gave you everything for nothing, right? Like, you just built your army a certain way, and then you just got things. The difference we feel between that and what Rights of War are, Rights of War give you detriments to your list building as well. So what I mean by that is you're adding on things that will affect the overall list construction. So, like, you can't take dreadnoughts, or you can't take units. You can't take unit like light tanks or skimmers or whatever. Like, they'll add restrictions, but they feel balanced in comparison to the benefits you're getting. And so it really is like a choice between, like, am I going to play my army this way today, or am I going to play it this way? And yeah, you might find it and hone on the formations, the Rights of War that you really like. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to be doing what you're going to be trying different things out, because there's so many Rights of War. Like, they have a generic tree of them, and then there's 1 to 3 different ones depending on which legion you're playing. So it really adds to the flavor of the army. And so, like, there's just a lot you can do with it. So that's just one thing I want to go into. Now I'm gonna shift back to what we were actually talking about, but I just want to say that Warhammer 30,000 is a really really cool game, and I think that Marines, despite the fact that they are kind of shoehorned and kind of being the generic vanilla sauce of like any gaming system in Warhammer and Warhammer systems in general, there's a lot of interesting things to it, and I feel that because of all the changes they do, that there's enough to mix up the legions that they don't necessarily feel just like Marines. They feel like their own specific legions. And that's something really, really cool, especially after reading the books. That's really, really cool. And you don't have to just play against Marines. There are a couple non-Marine factions in the game, and what me and my buddies have done is we've also added rules where we're fighting against, like, aliens, like during the Great Crusade. So you get to see the legions at your height, you get to play with your Primarch, which is just phenomenal, you get to play with all these ancient weaponries, things that are, like, really rare and hard to find in 40,000, but in 30,000, they're, like, superfluous, they're everywhere, and you can take loads of them, and not only that, you can also, like, you know, you can field them against the units they were meant to be fielded against, in my opinion, which is generic alien species. So like Tyranids, Tau, Imperial Guard, all that stuff. So like you're fighting against Xenos, you're fighting against Secessionists, you're fighting against people you're trying to bring in to the Empire, to the Imperium, and it's really flavorful and it's really really cool. And we've done a couple like things like that before. Maybe we'll do one on the channel. But anyways, I'm gonna get back to what we're actually talking about because that's either here or there. So back to the Wall of Shame. After going on a random thing. So the Wall of Shame is I have most of the codices. We have most of the codices for the missions for like all the edition here. We try to keep up with it because we want to make sure that we know what we're doing, but we also want to make sure that we also have like a fair amount of variety as well. So we're constantly trying to look for more things, try to spice things up. These are kind of the things that have fallen out of favor, such as the 8th edition rulebook, and I'll look at all these indexes that are no longer relevant, or things. I look, it's the 7th edition rulebook. Oh, it's another nice thing about the 30k too, is they have their own rulebook, which admittedly is a modified rule set of 7th, but I feel like it does away with a lot of the crap that the 7th edition has been notorious for in the past. And these are some of the codices that have no longer relevant and have kind of cycled out. And then at the very bottom here, this is kind of a trip down memory lane. So, pardon again. But these are codices and rule sets going back to 3rd edition. And 2nd edition, actually, even. I think I have a couple 2nd edition books in there. And what's really cool about that is this is my history. This is where it kind of came from. I've been playing this game for a really long time. I've seen it kind of evolve and change throughout all those years, and this is my history, you know? That's the history of my gameplay. So there's a lot of stuff down there, so, yeah, you know, maybe one day we'll revisit one of those editions or something on a video or stream or something. It'd be kind of cool, personally. You know, it'd be fun. I think we played a game of 5th here in the studio at one point, just to kind of try it out, and it was really weird after being in 8th edition for so long. But, yeah. So other than that, we have our this is our army tables, and right now I'm currently working on a Drakari game with my buddy. We're kind of playing down here, playing a Drakari match between Tyranids. We haven't decided to show anything on stream yet because the Drakari are still in the we're gonna get painted stage, but yeah, you know, we're kind of working on Drakari a little bit, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how everything kind of close together. We're also trying to make sure we get the rules down with Drakari, because it's like a brand new codex, and we want to make sure that we have, like, we know what we're doing with them before we kind of, like, throw them out there for you guys to view. I don't know, unless you guys really don't care, in which case we can try to throw more just kind of generic armies out there and just kind of see what happens with the, you know, with them. But yeah, the Drakari are currently in the process of getting painted up, so this is just kind of like the blobs of stuff that's that I decided to play with. And once I kind of hone in the list, then we're kind of get them painted up so they're gonna look nice and awesome on the channel. Lastly, we kind of have drawers of terrain. And we have a shelf full of terrain. There's a couple pieces up there that need to be repaired and put back in. There's some Aeronautica stuff. I don't know if any of you have ever played that. Hey, maybe you want us to kind of show it on the channel. Let us know in the comments below. And then all the things you need to play the game, data cards, that kind of stuff, rule books, and this is 9th edition. Let's face it, there are plenty of rule books. and they're only gonna get more more numerous as the edition goes on. So you know, and yeah, more terrain stuff, some game mats. Some old Warhammer Fantasy stuff. Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Sorry, Fantasy Battles. I don't want to get that. But we here are very excited for the potential of excuse me, potential of the old world, which may be a very long way from now. But yeah, that's the terrain stuff. The cat's perch. I don't know why it's necessary, but the cats like to sit up there. So that is the cat's perch. Other than that, these are some of my armies kind of lined up on the wall. Those are my Grey Knights down there. Some army stuff. Some more army stuff. Those are my Ultramarines down there. I don't know, maybe if we get enough likes or something, maybe I'll actually do a video where I show all of my Ultramarines. Stormbird for my Ultramarines. I will get there at some point. Let me tell you what, I have a lot of Ultramarines. I have a lot of Space Wolves too, but I definitely have a lot of Ultramarines. Like I said, I'm a filthy Ultramarine player. I accept this. So, yeah, that's going to be something. And then this is my buddy's rack of stuff. He's kind of working on it a little bit. Get it tidied up a little bit more. Oh, that's some more of my stuff up there. Necrons and such. But this is kind of his stuff. He's kind of working on getting it organized. I don't know if you've seen this in the past. It's kind of been like just models everywhere. I think there was a point where we were going to turn this into like a display area, but we realized at some point that we're just going to we're going to use it for more storage because we have Warhammer armies everywhere and they need to kind of find a home. But yeah, besides that, we have lots of more Tyranids over here. Just like we have the boxes of Drukhari over there. This is my hobby stuff, so I got lots of bits and lots of decals and terrain stuff and all that stuff, and I mean, the shame. And this is not even all of it. There's some of it scattered around the house, but let me tell you what, there's a lot of it. And then this has kind of been my painting area for Warhammer. So I've been using, this is my airbrush area where I've been doing my airbrushing, and yeah, it's kind of like a basic airbrush setup. You know, the spray booth. There's currently stuff on it, but there's more hobby stuff, including unbuilt sentinels. They're staring at me. We have a pile of shame here. This is not mine, but it is one of our guys is this hobby of his pile of shame. We're not showing this pile of shame to show him. We're showing this pile of shame to motivate him, because this will add tremendously to his army once he gets through some of this. But this is kind of a generic hobby area. And some of you might be wondering, I don't have like a space, it seems, for painting, like just like basic brush painting. And the reason for that is mostly just due to the fact, this is part of my hobby of shame. My pile of shame is some unfinished Drukhari. Like I said, really haven't had the energy this week to really kind of get into them, but my plan is to attack these with vengeance. But yeah, I don't have a painting area down here specifically for brush painting because I have a lot of brush paints. They're kind of in their own area right now in a different part of the house, and at the same time with that, I'm trying to figure out, like, I always have them like packed up ready to go, because whenever I go places, I want to be able to bring my paints with. I mean, it seems kind of super anti-social, but like at the same time, like I'll go places for like long periods of time, for whatever reason. So I just want to make sure that I have all my stuff on me ready to go at any given time. So this kind of prevented me from setting up a real painting space, as it were. But that's going to be down the road. Hey, look, more Tyranids needing to be built. So yes, we do have quite the pile of shame. And for those of you who do know what Magic the Gathering is, yes, there is quite a few Magic the Gathering cards strewn around this area as well. There is stacks of binders over there, and stacks of trade stuff, Commons and uncommons. Let's call it that. Commons and uncommons. And yes, that is not actually the full extent of my Magic collection. I've been an avid Magic the Gathering player for a very long period of time. I even was going professional at one point, and then decided, well, this is not really my thing. Mostly due to the fact that, like, it's just really hard to be really good at Magic. Like, I know that sounds like I kind of gave up, and yes, I did kind of give up, but at the same time, it's like, there's a lot of time and effort, and a lot of time and effort I put into specifically becoming really, really, really good at Magic, and like what differentiates like the best players in the world of Magic and like the good players or the okay players is literally like only like a minute percentage. Like it's just like the minute percentage of skill level is what I'm trying to say, is that it is you can be a really good Magic the Gathering player. And I've had this discussion with a lot of my buddies too that have like gone to like pro tours and stuff like that. Which, for those of you who do not know, Magic Pro Tour is like basically like a big Magic tournament that at the time you got an invite to. You had to be invited to this tournament, so you had to do well enough to get invited to it. And we've had the discussion. We've kind of come to the same conclusion in our kind of discussions. Is like, yes, it is very minute percentage that separates someone from being really good at Magic and someone who is good at Magic but not quite there to the level where they're going to take over, you know, a major tournament or go through a tournament scene. And yes, there's an element of luck because it is a random element game, kind of like Warhammer with dice rolling. But just like Warhammer as well, there's a lot of additional stuff. With that, there's a lot of ways you can build your army, build your deck, a lot of percentages and minute things you can kind of fluff in your favor. And knowing the odds when you're going into particular engagements, like in Warhammer and Magic is the same kind of thing. Knowing your odds as well, knowing your draws, knowing percentages of hands to keep, all that stuff. It's just there's a lot of things you can go into mechanically, and it's just like it was a lot of effort, and like I just wasn't getting anywhere with it. And yes, I fully admit that means I probably wasn't good enough to make it, but at the same time, like it's like there really wasn't any in between like making it and like not making it, right? Like, you know, with Warhammer, this is a hobby. Like we do this as a subsidiary to the rest of our lives. Like we do other things, but with Magic was a lifestyle. And ultimately, like if I wanted to be really, really, really good at Magic and like make it onto a pro tour, I had to just devote myself entirely to that game. And also I had to accept that I wasn't going to be making a living during that period. So I would have had to have someone support me during that period, or would have had to like find a way to like, you know, hold down a full-time job and then simultaneously also work it really hard to getting better Magic. And like I don't know if like I was in that position. And this has nothing to do with anything I was just saying today or at this moment, but yeah, I mean, I just wanted to kind of put it out there. Like Magic is a really, really cool game, but it's just not the game that I want to. The game that I think that it was what at the time I was thinking about this being a career and the next step in my life. I realized that it couldn't be unless I wanted it to be, and like there was just going to be too much sacrifice that I don't think I could have put up with. So I had to make a decision, and I made my decision. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty much the studio update. I know it's gone a little bit longer than I was anticipating. There's quite a few things. There's some guard up there. Grey Knights down there. Well, those are some Tyranid Bio-Titans stuck inside plastic. Some Eldari. I have a lot of Eldari as well. I should preface this by saying that one of my first army was Eldar. My second army was Tyranid. And then this is back in 3rd edition. Back when the best armies were like Black Templars and Chaos Space Marines and stuff. And I know that really sounds weird to say now because Chaos Space Marines are typically like, you're either really good with Chaos Space Marines or they're really, really awful. There's no like in between with Chaos Space Marines. In the meta at least. You know, for like tournaments and stuff. But at the time when I was playing them, I just wanted to play. I loved the aesthetic of the Eldar, so I got into the Eldar, and I loved the idea of horde armies, so I got into Tyranids. And then my first army was my first real army that I like built myself, and then I went out of the way to kind of research and actually acquire armies for. And this was the beginning of 5th edition, was Ultramarines, and that's really why Ultramarines are like one of the mainstays of my armies, and why Eldar. Craftworld Eldar are a huge part of my armies as well as you know, Tyranids, just because I have been playing those armies the longest, and so I obviously have the widest collection of them, which is why you'll often see really old models on the channel, because, yeah, I've been playing some of those armies a really long time, and I mean, especially with Craft World Eldar, it's really evident that those models really haven't updated really frequently, so you won't see those the differences there. But with in regards to, you know, Tyranids, they've seen some updates, so you'll notice some updates. You'll notice some old models on the table from way back when. And Space Marines especially, you'll notice a lot of old models. Like, I have my attack Marines from, like, the Battle of McCraig starter set, 4th edition, like, somewhere. I have a couple Black Templars hanging out from the old Black Templar starter set in 3rd edition somewhere. I have a whole load of 5th edition stuff, because 5th edition was really the time when I really was getting into Marines, and so I have a lot of Assault and Black Reach stuff. I have a lot of the stuff I purchased during that period because I really wanted to get into it. You know, because I kind of fell in love with Marines during that period. Because 5th edition was the edition I really kind of fell in love with Warhammer. But yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff I have down here, and, you know, if you guys want to explore, if you guys want to ask me questions about, like, what I have, or, you know, things that we could potentially do on the channel, like, I have no qualms about that, because honestly, I want to figure out what you guys want, you know, what kind of guys you're looking for, because you know, we have the battle reports, and we have a lot of Warhammer 40,000 content, but we can do more stuff than like that. We can do Magic the Gathering if you guys want us to. I have plenty of EDH decks. For those of you who know what that is, I do dabble in the occasional game of Aeronautica, so I have those. I have some old games like Arcane Legions, which none of you probably know what it is. I have those. It's sitting up there, along with HeroClix. We don't talk about HeroClix, but the point is, we can do lots of other stuff. So please, you know, let us know what you guys want from this channel. What would you like to see? You know, and we're more than happy to kind of go out of our way and try other stuff, because honestly, this is an experience for both of us. You know, you guys give us inspiration and ideas for new stuff, and hopefully we're giving you inspiration for your hobby side and your gaming side, and, you know, we're also kind of giving you also, like, things that you can do with, you know. So, you know, this is Gemini Wargaming. This is the downstairs studio. Hopefully one day we'll get it expanded. We'll get an actual, like, big area. This is a game of Drukhari versus Tyranids, and one day soon, I should say, not one day, but soon, we will have this as a battle report up online. Once we get kind of things figured out, we get everything painted up, we'll get this out as a battle report. But maybe you don't care. Maybe you just want, like, the raw footage. Maybe you want us to, like, play a game in front of you and show us, like, us stumbling and figuring it out along with you. Maybe that's what you want. So let us know. Let us know what you want, and we'll kind of work with it. We're currently working on getting some more terrain kind of painted up. Well, I am working on getting terrain painted up, as well as I have one of our members is currently 3D printing off a bunch of stuff for new terrain. More to look for there. That's really going to be really exciting. I think it's really cool. We've really tried to find a lot of really interesting files to kind of work with. So there's a lot more stuff in the future, in the near future here. And we're going to hopefully just continue to bring what you guys like and continue to improve as a channel. And hopefully you guys will improve with us, you know. Improve with your gaming skills, improve with your hobbying skills, or maybe this is just entertainment for you, you know. Maybe this, you know, gives you a little bit of a light of the tunnel at the end of work or at the end of a long week or something. And, you know, whatever you need us to be, we're here to help you. We're a community. And I just really want to emphasize that. So, you know, feel free to communicate that with us. So, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for making it this far. I realize it's kind of well, it's not kind of. It totally is rambling. But I appreciate you guys hanging around and sticking out with us. And we'll catch you on the next video. So until next time, you know, bye.